Hey everyone, when it comes to landscape photography, there's definitely some very specific subject matter and light which can make for a great black and white image, but of course capturing it and then knowing how to process it effectively is a whole different ballgame altogether. So in this video, I want you to join me with my family as we head out camping in the wilderness. I want to run you through the shooting of the location, but then we're going to come back to the computer and I want to run through how I focus stack the image and then do a black and white conversion. All right, let's go. Get some energy.
Yep.
What did you find?
Bright purple mushroom.
See it, Rory?
Wow.
Here.
They're so cool.
That's interesting.
It's like it's a pearl. The things would go and open up
It does look like that.
with like a ball inside.
Oh, what a vista. Look at that. It's a photo right there. The balance. Oh, tempted to get the camera out and you guys can keep walking. Maybe there's too much light on the foreground. Yeah, I saw that. There he is. That's nice. Let's keep walking up. So the goal is to just get to the top of the hill where it flattens out and sleep up there, make a camp. Oh, look at that. That's epic. Yeah, that's good. That's what we need, some of those flowers. We're above some of the clouds now. Look at those little ones zipping by. Into the cloud. You're doing good. What do you reckon? Almost there. All right, destination reached. Now we're just looking for a campsite. So it flattens out as expected, as per the topo. However, definitely wasn't expecting this much grassy tussocks. So we're gonna have a look around and hopefully find somewhere just to pitch 2 tents. This is really nice conditions now. Look at that atmosphere, some gentle light up there. And these tussocks. I think this could be a good monochrome, but don't worry about that for the moment. Just gotta find the comp. The fog keeps rolling in and out. 1 minute the view's there and then it's gone. Let's see what we can do. That's just spectacular though. Main subject, the peak in the back. That's where I want to draw the eye to. We've got all these nice rolling tussock leading us down. And then it's that fog which just really is the icing on the cake and that hint of light. Oh, look behind you, Judah. Look at those peaks with the light on it. This is nice. Got these grasses here. And then just numerous layers back there. Wow. If off in the distance is great, but you don't have the lens long enough to just isolate that, then come back and get something in the front there and you get a really good perception of depth. It's a nice mixture of contrast because you got the sharp lines of the grasses, the tussock, but then that soft rolling cloud and then all the sweeping lines of the mountains. Really cool. So look at this direction here. We've got the tarn with the layers in the back. Oh, over here, every single direction. We're meant to be packing up now. Everything has to be a focus stack because I'm compressed so much, 75mm. There's a huge distance between these tussocks and obviously what's going on in the background. Man, look at that. That is just too good. Oh, actually, ooh, is that rain coming?
Yeah.
Look that way, it's quite dark.
Okay, we better move.
Better start packing up, eh?
Yeah, the sun going.
We might get a rainbow though.
takes your breath away.
Thanks for joining us. Let's go back and look at some of these photos. All right, welcome back, guys. I thought I'd quickly run through some of the images. I want to talk about composition and then do a quick monochrome tutorial for you on one of the raw files. The reality is, a big part of landscape photography is spending time in the field, but not necessarily actually creating photos which are worthy of, you know, being held onto. That's completely fine. So it's like fishing. You don't always go out and catch a fish. Now, on that note, you know, some of my favorite images, and I did get ones worth keeping, are family photos. That was a big part of this trip. It was a family trip. I just love this one here with my son. So I've done a quick edit on that one, but I just love, you know, for me, that just sums up the whole experience and the feel of that place up there. And then my daughter with my wife, the kids there. Look at this one with the kids, you know. To me, that is worth more than any just landscape photo. So just keep that in mind, guys, all right? We love landscape photography. It's our passion. It's a hobby. For some of us, it might be our job. But you're really setting yourself up for failure if you think you're going to go out there and you have to get something every single time. That's just not a good way to approach it. Just approach it as, what experience can I have out in the field, and potentially I'll have an opportunity to capture and convey that experience in an image. And if not, it's fine. At least we got outdoors and had fun anyway. Now, when it comes to looking at the landscape ones, with that out of the way, that little spiel, these were the ones that kind of resonated with me most. So I've got this frame here, which I had to focus stack. So I've got 3 frames there from front to back. Focus stack for the depth of field, of course. Then I've got this one, which I want to mention. And then this scene here and that one. So there's a little handful. First and foremost, I'm just going to open up these 4. Compositionally, I just wanted to mention the difference it makes between getting low and close to foreground matter and then when you don't. So this is low and close to these foreground tussocks. They're a little bit soft because I picked the middle frame of that focus stack, so they're soft right in the foreground. But anyway, have a look at that one versus that one. Not a major difference, I know, but in my opinion, that there's just enough, there's more depth here. When we get low and close, remember, I mentioned this in so many of the videos, we're creating that sense of depth in a more 3-dimensional feel. It feels like the viewer's right there because we have the big flowing to the small, the wide flowing down to the narrow, the linear perspective. Here, it is somewhat there anyway by nature. You've got these large ones in the front, but not quite as large as those ones, all right? So just a very subtle difference. I thought it was worth mentioning. I'm not saying that composition doesn't work. Of course it does. But I think there's just that little bit more depth and impact and a 3-dimensional feel in this frame compared to that frame. So that one there, number 986, that's part of the focus stack. We'll do the processing on that one. I wanted to show you this frame as well. I quite like the layering here. You'll probably remember this moment out in the field. I did like that moment. I just don't know if I'll process it because what it's lacking for me is the main focal point. Where is the eye going to right at the end? I love the tussock, the balance there, the 2 large ones left and right, just counterbalancing the center. We've got these beautiful layers and details, but when I look at that frame, I'm left kind of wanting that final piece of the puzzle. Basically, a nice dominant peak back here, something that is clearly the main subject. Again, it can still make a nice image. If someone showed me this, a student, and said, what do you think of this one? Well, yeah, it's definitely great. Got the layering, got the depth, nice balance, etc., etc. But, you know, as I said earlier at the start of the video, you don't have to force an image if it's just not there for you. If it's not, it's good to raise the bar and keep maintaining a higher standard for yourself. And I feel like this one's just not up to that standard for me. I also wanted to mention this frame here. This is at 75mm. I feel like this one would look nice as a 16:9. Crop that in like that. And then again, it's not processed. So if I was going to process it, look at, it's all mid-tone. So I'd probably want to increase some contrast, bring the lights up, bring the darks down, a bit more light in there like that. And if we just go to the dehaze and globally dehaze, that's just going to bring those mid-darks down further. And then globally, let's bring the whites up a little bit. It's probably gone overboard, but anyway, before and after. I feel like that's a nice frame. For me, it's still not really up to the standard that I'd probably hold for myself. I just don't feel like it fits into my portfolio, but I thought it was worth sharing. I thought that was just a nice, beautiful part of the frame up there. So let's do the quick focus stack on this one, and we'll talk about a monochrome process. So the first thing that I do is find the 3 or whatever, how many raw files there are that are going to be part of the stack. I'm going to shift click and open those up. And now they're all here in ACR. And now let's just do a quick process. I want to show you a black and white conversion on this one. Why am I thinking black and white? Well, there's a real natural gradient going on in the landscape anyway, a nice natural soft contrast, mainly in the tussock. The tussock is just so good for black and white photography in my opinion, because look at the tones in there. We just have that great shift of tonality, and that just keeps rolling all through the landscape. Not to mention up here, you know, like look at the contrast of the dark with the light, not to mention the dark sky with the pockets of light. That's what makes a good black and white image. A great monochrome is natural contrast. It would be even better if we actually had sunlight hitting the landscape as well, and that would really break up that midground. But anyway, we'll work with what we've got. So what I'm going to do is I'll probably just work on this last frame, and then we're going to sync it all over. So one way you can do a black and white is click the black and white conversion button over here, bang. Now, the way that I like to create these images is going with high contrast. So at the moment, if you look at the histogram, yes, we've got the natural contrast through the landscape, but it's not what you'd call high contrast. So I want to go high contrast, quite dramatic. You can obviously grab the contrast slider and go a bit crazy on that. We'll do that a little bit, about +10. I'm going to bring the whites up now. This is one of the key factors. So look at the histogram, we're getting all those mid-tone brights lighter, and I like to have those towards our right-hand side of the histogram. That means you have some bright tones in the file, which is really quite critical in my opinion. I'm going to bring that right up to about 70. Of course, I've blown out the highlights, so to correct that, I might just push K for an adjustment brush. If you've seen some of my other videos, you know that this is the main primary tool I use in my processing. On this now, I'm going to bring the highlights and exposure down and start gently hitting this top part of the frame. One, that's going to help recover some of our lost highlights, but 2, it's also bringing back all those details up in the sky, and by doing that it's going to bring the attention back to the center of the frame. I'm now going to push K for a new one. This one I'm just going to bring exposure down and blacks and use this to really dramatize the upper part of the sky. I want that, it's somewhat symmetrical with the foreground in the sense that I often will have darker foreground and darker darks there. And then as we progress through to the horizon, which is further away from the viewer, the value of the black should get lighter and lighter and lighter. And that's just called the atmospheric perspective. It's replicating exactly what happens in nature, but it's not always evident in the raw. I've pushed K again, and I'm gonna, on the curves, bring down these dark tones on the brush, like so. And I'm just building up different brushes up here, all doing different things if we look at each one. So that's before and after on that one, and that one. So each one is progressively dark in the sky. I'll often just build them up in layers instead of trying to nail it in one specific go. It just makes more sense to layer things up. Let's leave that there for now. We've lost a lot of our bright tones, haven't we? You can see the histogram now showing that I actually got rid of them all. So let's bring them back. I'm going to push K. And how about we start with exposure? I'm going to bring that up and blast some light right in here. I want the eye to travel back there to where the peak is. By bringing the exposure up back there, it's saying, hey, come here please. It's drawing the eye in. That's how light works. We're drawn to light. Now I'm going to push K, and on this one I'm going to bring up some whites and just in the distance just drag that along. And white is just going to lift anything that has a little bit of light on it. So I'll slide that back and forward. See what that's doing? Again, we've got to watch the histogram though. So back to the global, and I might just pull down the global highlights. I don't mind having a little bit of a highlight clip. It looks quite natural, especially when you are looking towards the actual sun itself. And in a black and white, you really can bend, you know, the rules a little bit in my opinion. You can bend reality a lot. On this brush now, I'm going to hit the foreground. I love the tussock. I'm going to increase contrast down there and also texture, and really emphasize the texture of the tussock, which I just think works so well with the fog in the back. It's a great contrast. There we go, like so. And why don't we bring the whites up down there a little bit, but again, I don't want that taking the eye away from the background. Lastly, for the background, I've pushed K another time. Rehazing, this is basically going to decrease the mid-tone contrast. It's probably going a bit heavier than what I wanted. I'm just going to delete that. Push delete, K for a new one, minimize the brush and just dehaze. So yeah, it's like reducing mid-tone contrast, and what that does, it creates the illusion of depth and distance back there, similar to what I mentioned about the dark tones not being as dark when they're further away. I'll slide that back and forward, you'll see what I mean. So it just replicates almost like an atmospheric, further away perception, the atmospheric perspective. Okay, and I'm going to bring the shadows and blacks up for this ridge line here. It just shouldn't be that dark when it's that far away. All right, where are we at? Before, after, now looking at the histogram and just kind of analyzing the tonality of the whole frame. Have we lost too many of those highlights? Why don't we bring down the whole exposure, like so, and push K, and this brush, I'm putting exposure back on it, and I'm just bringing the exposure up in the distance. All back here, careful of the sky, I don't want to blow those highlights on that mist, a little bit on that tarn down there. All right, something like that. Now I've done a quick job for the sake of the tutorial. I'm not saying this is completely finished, but it definitely gets it in the ballpark of where I would like to take it. And you know what, I think I am gonna, just refine this, and it will become part of the portfolio on the website more. I just like the type of landscape here. It's very different to what I normally photograph, what's in my portfolio, but also the memory that it holds for me. And I do like the layering. So how do we stack it all? Well, now I got to sync it. So we're just going to do Command A, that selects everything. If you're on a PC, it's just Control, not Command. And now I click on the one I've processed and I say sync settings. And it says, what do you want to sync? I want to sync everything, all the brushwork. So I say check all, and then I push OK. Now from here, I need to open these up in the main part of Photoshop. So I just push open. If you haven't focus stacked before, check out my channel for a complete workflow on it. Otherwise, we'll do it here anyway together. What we need to do is get all three files on top of each other. Here's our first one, second, third. I'll just go full size so we can see what's going on. All right, so you can copy and paste or click, drag and drop. I'm going to copy paste. So I'm on number 85. I'm going to click on the file and do Command A, which selects the whole file, and now Command C to copy. Go back to 84, click on 84 and push Command V to paste. So I've now pasted one on top of the other. 86, same thing, Command A, Command C, back to the first one, Command V. So now look on the right hand side, you can see our layers here, 1, 2, 3, and I'll just unlock that first layer. Now I can auto align them. So I need to click all of them so they're active or gray. I just did shift click, edit. I need to auto align and I just push OK. So this is why it doesn't matter if you're handheld or on a tripod, there's always going to be a bit of movement due to the shifting of the focal point. So when I'm handheld, obviously you just don't move around like a crazy person and you don't have any problems. So that was auto aligned, and now it's edit auto blend. And yes, we're going to stack images, we push OK, and now it's going to blend the images for us. Now, this is where typically I'd flatten the image, right click, so it's just a single layer. I'd unlock it, and first and foremost, you want to zoom and double check, did it do a good job? So you're looking for sharpness in the front, which is what we have, and then you progress through to the background. What you're really looking for is any obvious errors where maybe one huge portion is just completely wrong or blurry for whatever reason. That all looks pretty good to me. What you'll find though, and I mentioned this in the focus stacking video, is always on the edges there's going to be something like that going on. So you can crop in, you can warp it out. I just often will transform it, Command T. Why do I transform? Because often I want to shift the perspective anyway. So I've done Command T, that brings up the transform tool. If I click and drag, see it's doing the whole file at once. That's just like cropping essentially, but if you hold shift and click, now I'm actually dragging, and that can just come in handy if you just want to slightly change the comp or even just the distortion. Remember, this is shot on a wide angle, so it is going to be heavily distorted compared to what the human eye was seeing. So I'll often do that and just kind of, you know, tweak things, keeping in mind, you know, you don't want to shift the landscape too much and, you know, transform the look of the mountain, but you've got a lot of room to move when you're using a wide angle. So there we go. So a monochrome conversion and then a focus stack all the way through. Really fun little adventure. Thank you so much for tagging along. Hopefully you picked up a few little tips there. As always, if you have any questions, any comments, please leave them below. Please give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Feel free to share it. It all just helps the algorithm, helps the channel to grow. I don't like saying that, but it really does help. And it means that I can keep getting a video out to you guys each and every week. So thank you again, and I look forward to seeing you next week.